We have always believed that we are the first, the masters of reality, the first to build towering cities of glass and steel, the first to split the atom, the first to alter the climate, and the first to look up and touch the stars. We look at our history and see a straight, unbroken line of progress, placing ourselves at the very peak of evolution. But what if that belief is nothing more than arrogance? What if the ground beneath your feet is not just rock, but a graveyard of forgotten empires? Deep in the ancient rock, buried under miles of crushing ice and dark ocean mud, lie clues that simply do not fit our story. We find metallic spheres formed by intense heat that nature cannot produce. We find sudden, inexplicable carbon spikes frozen in prehistoric ice. We find traces of radiation locked in stone long before humans ever existed. NASA scientists call this the Silurian Hypothesis. It asks a haunting question that mainstream science is terrified to answer. If others came before us, where did they go? And does their tragic fate predict our own extinction?
To understand the possibility, we must first humble ourselves before the concept of time. The human mind struggles to comprehend the true, terrifying age of the Earth. Our planet is 4.5 billion years old, a number so vast it means nothing to us. But consider this, modern humans, we have been here for barely 300,000 years. Let's visualize this. If the history of Earth were compressed into a single 24-hour clock, humans arrived at 11:59 p.m. in the very last few seconds before midnight. We are a blip, a momentary flash in the dark. The dinosaurs ruled for hours on this clock. We have been here for seconds. So, here is the mystery. What happened in the other 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 50 seconds? Is it really possible that for billions of years, the Earth was just silent? Or did civilizations rise, build global empires, fight terrible wars, and die out long before the first biological human was even born?
Skeptics often argue, if they existed, where are their ruins? Where are their roads? But this argument assumes that stone and steel last forever. They don't. Entropy comes for everything. Let's run a simulation. Imagine that tomorrow, every human being on Earth simply vanishes. What is left behind? Within centuries, rain would strip away the concrete of our cities. Our skyscrapers would rust, buckle, and collapse into the soil. Within a few thousand years, our bridges would fall into the rivers and our great dams would burst. Glaciers would grind our capitals into dust. Tectonic plates would subduct entire continents, melting our history into magma. If an alien archaeologist visits Earth in 50 million years, they won't find the pyramids of Giza. They won't find the Great Wall of China. They won't find the servers of the internet. The surface of the Earth will be clean, green, and silent, as if we never existed.
However, they would find something else. If they looked close enough, they would find chemical shadows. They would find a thin, distinct layer of plastic, a synthetic polymer that nature cannot digest, embedded in the fossil record like a strange geological stratum. They would find plutonium-244, a radioactive isotope that does not exist in nature, with a half-life long enough to tell the universe that someone, at some point, detonated nuclear weapons here. They would find a sudden, unnatural spike in atmospheric carbon. These are our true fingerprints. Not monuments, but pollution. A thin, dirty line in the rock that proves someone was here. And when we dig deep into Earth's past, we find these exact same fingerprints.
Let's move from theory to physical evidence, because sometimes the ghosts leave more than just dust. In South Africa, deep in the pyrophyllite mines of Ottosdal, miners have spent decades extracting a soft rock formed from ancient sediment. But every now and then, their machines hit something hard. something that shouldn't be there. They found hundreds of small metallic spheres known as the Klerksdorp Spheres. Some are barely the size of a marble, while others are larger. But it's not their size that is disturbing, it is their precision. Some of these spheres are perfectly balanced. Others have 3 distinct parallel grooves etched around their equator. If you held one in your hands today, without knowing its history, you would say, this is a machine part, this is a ball bearing, this is a manufactured container.
But here is the problem that defies all logic. The rock encasing these spheres is 3 billion years old. Let that sink in. 3 billion years. At that time, Earth was a hostile alien world. There were no dinosaurs, there were no trees, there were no animals. The only life on Earth was microscopic slime and bacteria. Nature does not create perfect metal spheres with precision-carved grooves, and yet, there they are. Mainstream geologists try to explain them as natural concretions, minerals clustering together. But concretions are usually lumpy, uneven, and random. They do not look like precision engineering. The metal itself is strange, harder than steel, with a composition that defies the surrounding rock. Are we looking at the remnants of a mining operation from a civilization that predates biology itself? Or are they debris left by visitors from another star who crashed here when the Earth was young? But metal is not the only scar left behind. There are also scars of fire. In 1945, when humanity detonated the first atomic bomb in the New Mexico desert, the heat was so intense, hotter than the surface of the sun, that it instantly melted the desert sand. When it cooled, it turned into a layer of green radioactive glass called trinitite. Trinitite is the unique signature of a nuclear detonation. It is the footprint of an apocalypse. Yet, buried in the Libyan desert and in geological layers millions of years old, we find vast fields of similar high-purity silica glass, thousands of tons of it, spread over hundreds of kilometers. The rocks tell us one story, but the bones tell us another. If we assume that Earth has hosted advanced civilizations before, we should see ripples in the biological record. And when we look closely at the fossil record, we do not see a slow, steady tree of life. We see a series of violent interruptions. The fossil record is often described as a book, a long, detailed history of life. But when you actually open that book, you find that entire chapters have been ripped out. There are gaps, massive voids in time, where life seems to vanish, only to reappear suddenly, changed forever. These aren't just missing links, they are missing worlds. The rocks tell us one story, but the bones tell us another. If we assume that Earth has hosted advanced civilizations before, we should see ripples in the biological record. And when we look closely at the fossil record, we do not see a slow, steady tree of life. We see a series of violent interruptions. The fossil record is often described as a book, a long, detailed history of life. But when you actually open that book, you find that entire chapters have been ripped out. There are gaps, massive voids in time, where life seems to vanish, only to reappear suddenly, changed forever. These aren't just missing links, they are missing worlds. The most famous of these anomalies is known as the Cambrian explosion, roughly 541 million years ago. For billions of years before this moment, life on Earth was incredibly simple. It was a quiet world of single-celled organisms, algae, and bacteria. Evolution was moving at a snail's pace. Then, in a geological blink of an eye, everything changed. Almost overnight, the oceans were filled with complex, terrifying creatures. Animals with hard shells, advanced eyes, complex nervous systems, and armor plating appeared out of nowhere. Darwin himself was deeply troubled by this. Evolution is supposed to be slow, it is supposed to be gradual, but the Cambrian explosion looks less like evolution and more like an invasion. This sudden burst of complexity raises a disturbing hypothesis.
If a previous advanced civilization had wiped itself out, perhaps through nuclear war or biological catastrophe, they would have sterilized the surface of the Earth. Life would need millions of years to recover. When it finally bounces back, or perhaps is reseeded by the survivors emerging from their bunkers, it would look exactly like this: a sudden explosion of new, complex forms filling the empty ecosystem. Are we looking at natural selection, or are we looking at a planetary terraforming project initiated to restart the biosphere after a collapse? But the Cambrian is not the only scar. Throughout Earth's history, we see moments called mass extinctions. The most catastrophic was the Permian-Triassic extinction event, known as the Great Dying. It wiped out 96% of all marine life and 70% of terrestrial life. The cause? A sudden, massive spike in carbon dioxide and global temperatures. The oceans became acidic. The air became toxic. Sound familiar? The official explanation is massive volcanic eruptions in Siberia, but the rate of carbon release was so fast and so intense that some atmospheric scientists question if volcanoes alone could account for such a rapid shift. Could the Great Dying be the result of an industrial civilization that burned fossil fuels until they boiled their own planet? Are we simply repeating a cycle that has happened 10 times before? A cycle of rise, industrialization, climate collapse, and extinction? If you look at the isotopic data from that era, the curve of carbon release matches our current industrial curve almost perfectly. We might not be the first to burn the Earth. We might just be the latest to light the match. If a civilization realizes its planet is dying, what does it do? It looks up. It tries to escape. And this brings us to our neighbor, Mars. Today, Mars is a frozen, dead desert, a graveyard of red dust. But we know for a fact that billions of years ago, Mars was like Earth. It had vast blue oceans, rushing rivers, a thick atmosphere, and a magnetic field. It was a paradise. So here is the question. Did the Silurians, the ancient Earthlings, try to flee there when Earth became toxic? Or is the story even more terrifying? Is it possible that we are the refugees? Did humanity actually begin on Mars? Did we destroy the red planet with war or climate change and escape to Earth as a lifeboat, only to forget our history over the long, dark millennia of survival? This sounds like pure science fiction until you look at the hard data sent back by NASA's rovers. Dr. John Brandenburg, a plasma physicist, analyzed the isotopic composition of the Martian atmosphere and found something deeply disturbing. He found massive, inexplicable concentrations of Xenon-129. Xenon-129 is a very specific isotope. In nature, it is incredibly rare. On Earth, the only time we see high spikes of Xenon-129 is after a nuclear explosion. The concentration on Mars is similar to the levels found near Chernobyl or Fukushima, but on a planetary scale. Brandenburg suggests that Mars did not die naturally. He proposes that Mars was murdered, that a massive nuclear event, perhaps a war between rival factions or an attack from space, stripped the planet of its atmosphere, boiled its oceans, and turned it into the radioactive wasteland we see today. And then there are the visual anomalies. In the Cydonia region of Mars, we see structures that defy explanation. The famous face on Mars, which NASA dismissed as a trick of light and shadow. But subsequent high-resolution images of the region showed geometric structures nearby that look suspiciously like eroded pyramids and city grids. Are these just rocks shaped by the wind? Probably. But when you combine them with the Xenon-129 data and the fact that Mars was once habitable, the mind wanders to dark places.
If an advanced civilization died on Mars billions of years ago, the wind and sand would have eroded their cities down to the foundations. They would look exactly like strange, geometric mountains. Is Cydonia a graveyard? Is it a warning left by our ancestors? A message carved in stone saying, "Do not do what we did."
If Mars is the ghost of war, then Venus is the ghost of greed. Venus is often called Earth's twin. It is the same size, the same gravity, and made of the same materials. But Venus is hell. The surface temperature is hot enough to melt lead. The pressure is crushing. The air is thick with sulfuric acid. Scientists believe Venus was once a water world, just like Earth. It may have been habitable for billions of years, but something triggered a runaway greenhouse effect. The planet got too hot. The oceans boiled away into steam. The carbon was trapped in the atmosphere, turning the planet into an oven. Was this a natural cycle? Or was Venus the home of a civilization that didn't stop burning fuel in time? Did they push their industry too far, just like we are doing now, until the planet turned against them?
When we look at our solar system, we see a tale of 3 planets. Mars died by freezing, perhaps stripped by nuclear fire. Venus died by burning, choked by greenhouse gases. And Earth? Earth stands in the middle. We are the Goldilocks planet. We are still alive, but we are holding a match in one hand and a nuclear warhead in the other. We are flirting with both fates. We are walking the razor's edge between the ice of Mars and the fire of Venus.
This brings us to the most terrifying concept in all of astrobiology, the Great Filter. The universe is 13.8 billion years old. There are billions of stars in our galaxy alone, and billions of planets that could support life. By all statistical logic, the galaxy should be teeming with noisy, advanced civilizations. We should see their megastructures blocking the stars. We should hear their radio signals. We should see their ships. But we see nothing. We hear nothing. The universe is silent. This silence is known as the Fermi paradox, and the Great Filter is the answer. It suggests that there is a barrier, a step in evolution that is almost impossible to pass. The theory says that life arises easily, intelligence arises eventually, but civilizations are fragile. The Great Filter suggests that once a species becomes advanced enough to change its planet, it inevitably destroys itself. It discovers nuclear power and blows itself up. It discovers industry and destroys its climate. It creates artificial intelligence and is replaced. Maybe the silence of the universe isn't empty space. Maybe it is a graveyard of civilizations that burned too bright, too fast. And now, look at us. Look at humanity in the 21st century. We have split the atom and salted the soil with isotopes that will be readable millions of years from now. We have pushed atmospheric CO2 to levels not seen since prehistoric hothouse Earth. We have covered the oceans and continents with plastics, leaving a layer of synthetic dust that will never fully decay. In just a few centuries, we have produced the exact kinds of anomalies scientists now puzzle over in ancient rocks. We are walking the exact same path as the ghosts in the rock. We are building our own Great Filter. The scariest part of the Silurian Hypothesis is not that we might find an ancient civilization. The scariest part is that we might be seeing our own future reflected in the past. We might be just another cycle, another layer of sediment waiting to be compressed into rock for the next species to find in 50 million years.
But this story does not have to end in darkness. There is one crucial difference between us and the ghosts of the past. We know. We have the capacity to look at the rocks and read the warnings. We have the science to see the Xenon on Mars and understand the war that happened there. We have the models to see the Venusian greenhouse and understand the danger of greed. Knowledge is the only weapon against the Great Filter.
If no one else has survived past this point, then the throne of the galaxy is empty. It is waiting for a species with the wisdom to not destroy itself.
Silence is not just a warning, it is an invitation. If the universe is quiet, it means there is no one out there to stop us, but there is also no one out there to save us. We are alone, and that means the responsibility is entirely ours. We stand at a fork in the road. Behind us lies the graveyard of Mars, the hell of Venus, and the buried secrets of Earth. Ahead of us lies the silence of the stars. Will we be the species that finally breaks the cycle? Will we be the ones who pass the filter and spread life into the cosmos? Or will we just be another layer of plastic and radiation in the mud?
The greatest mystery isn't whether others came before us. The greatest mystery is whether we will be here tomorrow. The universe is vast, dangerous, and beautiful, and it is waiting. If you believe humanity is meant for the stars, if you believe we can break the cycle, then join us on this journey. Hit that like button to help this message spread, and subscribe to Apex Cosmos, because the truth is out there, buried in the dust, waiting to be found. Let's make sure our story doesn't end in the rocks. Stay curious.